Welcome to the second Mechs on Decks podcast. We definitely appreciate all of the support from last week's episode. We are very humbled by the community and the support that we've gotten just in a real short time. Today, we're going to be talking about getting into group buys. Before we got into that, we just wanted to shed some light on some of the current group buys that are going on. Just these are both a couple group buys that either we're planning to get on or we really like and wish we could get on, but we're not really sure if it's gonna make sense financially. So let's get into it. So up first we have GMK9s. We actually talked about this a little bit last week. Things have kind of changed a little bit. They don't have the Rama cap anymore, which saddens me a little bit.
No Rama cap. It's unfortunate, but it looks like they are changing it up. The polls on GCAC if you want to go vote. But once again, we won't talk too long on it, but great keycap set, very minimal, very inexpensive, standard GMK colors, so quick turnaround time at 130. Great compatibility. Really the only thing you're missing is kind of the split base space bar. And just kind of the lesser used. Still, nothing wrong with orthos and 40s and all of that, but just lesser used keyboards. But great compatibility and just an all around slam dunk of a key set. But that Rama cap is.
It makes me a little bit sad. It makes me a little bit sad, but this is up on Kono right now, 129. I think it's already hit MOQ. But it'll be up until May 3rd. So if it's not at MOQ, it's pretty close already. So
I can't imagine this won't make.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I think it'll hit and exceed. Second, we have the Think 6.5.
This is a great board. I've been following. It's by Old Cat. He has been posting about this for a while on Instagram. It's a 65% board. It was originally going to just be a polycarbonate, but it's got a big fat badge on there with the logo. Lots of different layout options. Lots of different case color options. It's a cool board. It's coming out at a time that I think where the 65% are kind of dominated by just, there's just not a lot out there, and especially in this layout, there's just not a whole lot. So I think this is coming out the best time possible for Old Cat to be releasing this. So
yeah, and it's definitely got a lot of support from the community and has been very hyped up recently, and I think it's a beautiful board. Not really. I would love to get into it. Not really sure if I'm going to. One thing to note here, it is under $300 like he planned at a solid
$299.98. Yay. Is under.
Couple cents. They are doing a couple raffles along with it. I know that they're talking about doing some raffle details that have come out recently, raffling off some different boards, and as they sell more, they're planning on doing more raffles for it. So it's a really cool board. Definitely check it out. Links to both of these will be in the description. There's a lot on this board, a lot of different layouts you can choose from. It does go up on what day, Chewy?
I believe April 14th. I don't know the exact time, but I know he's releasing the group buy form early to kind of check it out and get familiar with it. I don't know how 14th. Limited it is, but I think this is a slam dunk of a board, and as long as everything goes smoothly, I think this will be a board a lot of people regret getting in on. So
yeah, because here's all your color options.
Regret not getting in on.
Yeah, this might
sorry,
be
Old
one.
Cat.
Yeah, no. So it looks like they're doing the group buy starts on the 14th at 6:50 PST, and then they are doing the full brass raffle 6:50 on the 13th. So you got a lot of options there between your different color options, and then like I said, they are doing some additional raffles as they sell more boards. So if you have the ability to, definitely get in on it. It's a pretty sweet board.
Yep.
So I think with that, we're gonna go ahead and get into our topic for the day.
Yep.
So we're gonna be talking today about getting into group buys, whether that's keycap or keyboard group buys. We're just gonna get on where you should start and how to find everything.
So finding group buys can be a very interesting experience because they're not always posted everywhere. If you are new to the community, a lot of people do find out through the community through Reddit. And they're not, there are a lot of group buys posted on Reddit, and a lot of times they actually take you to Geek Hack. So, Geek Hack, and all these websites we'll put on the description down below. But Geek Hack is kind of the main, it's kind of all roads lead to Geek Hack. That's where most of the group buys happen on. And most of them are basically just posts. Most of the things you'll find on Reddit or Keep Talk or Mech Market. A lot. I know they announced a lot of that stuff there. I think that most of that's just links to Geek Hack. So it can be Geek Hack's a little different, and in my opinion, not as user friendly as some other places, but it is where most of the information is. And that's where you can keep track of interest checks and group buys. And real quick, for those who don't know, interest checks are basically uh, designers trying to feel out how well they think this will sell. So if they come up with something, they design something and put the work in, they'll release it in an interest check, and they will see how many people would buy it and see if it would be worth going in on or if they need to change anything. So
Yeah. A lot of times, if you do see an interest check for something that you like, they'll have like a Google form or a Google Doc that you can fill out and get in on. I would say if it's something that you are anticipating wanting, definitely do that. So it gives the uh, promoter or the designer of the buy that's running the group buy, it gives them the ability to know, hey, there's this many people who are interested in this and who are wanting to get in on it if I do in fact go to a full group buy. Like Chewy was saying, everything does really rely on Geek Hack, and it can be a little bit difficult to navigate, especially at first, because a lot of times you'll be looking through and the first, couple different buys that are on there are already complete or at the ending stages. So you really kind of have to know a little bit of what you're looking for. But once you get going into it and once you start following things from interest check until they go live, it's nice to be able to kind of utilize Geek Hack and kind of maneuver through it.
mhm. And one thing, we should have mentioned this earlier, a little bit earlier, but a group buy is basically something because it's very different from just buying a board, buying something and then just being shipped immediately. So a group buy is basically, instead of someone fronting all of the money and all of the costs of making a board, they want to get the money first. So a lot of times they'll get a prototype done. They go, hey, I have this board. Look at it. Here are the pictures. Here's some typing sounds. Not always. A lot of times it's just designs. It's just pictures and renders that you can see. But basically, a group buy is so that you spend the money before it's even made, so that no one has to take the cost of it immediately. Which for a newcomer, that can sound very strange. If you hop on, you find our mechanical keyboards, and you go, "Oh man, that board looks so awesome! I want that. Where can I buy that right now?" Unless you get lucky on Mech Market, you're probably not going to be able to get that exact board unless they run another one. Or, if you want to kind of get in, you're going to have to probably go through group buys, especially with the higher end boards.
Yep.
So
Yeah, because for me that was the Rama M65A. I came in a little bit after they had started shipping. Was when I really first got into everything, and I saw them everywhere, and I was like, man, that board's amazing. Where do I get one? And I couldn't.
it
so
happens.
so yeah, and
So.
there's a big difference between buying on like a group buy. versus, I know in our last episode we talked a lot about KBD fans or even websites now like Kono where they have boards in stock. If you're wanting something immediate, you're not willing to, wait, a couple months for a board to come in, and you're wanting something in the next couple weeks. Going through KBD fans or Kono or something like that allows you to buy, um, a mid to even high tier board depending on what they have in stock. Um, it allows you to get your hands on one of those and kind of get building right away.
And I think for a beginner, you're more than welcome to do as you please. But a group buy, if you're going, man, I really want one of these awesome keyboards, um, a group buy is probably not going to be the best option right away. Just if you're wanting to get into the community, unless you were willing to wait potentially up to 6 months, even longer. So I think KBD fans, especially if you're wanting to start out, maybe go look there, get a board that you might think looks great and looks like it would be doable. And then once you get your hands on a board, maybe then start looking at group buys. Once again, we're not telling you what to do, but I think it would be a better experience and a better intro into the community and into custom mechanical keyboards if you got your hands on something first. And obviously, mech market is kind of the variable here because you can get your hands on virtually anything as long as it lines up or any group buy that you saw. But just know you might actually be spending more money than the group buy. And oftentimes, especially on really hyped up boards, you're going to be spending quite a high
like TGR stuff.
yeah, TGR stuff and Rama stuff. You're going to be getting that hype tax basically of, am I getting this? Am I going to be able to get this for even a reasonable price?
Right.
So
It all depends on just what your budget is, what you're willing to spend. If you're willing to throw down a couple grand for an Alice or something like that, then you may be able to find one on Mech Market. But if you're looking to just spend a couple $100 going through something like KVD fans or Kono would be a good way to get into it. Now, with that being said, there are really two different things that are sold on group buys at the end of the day. It's key sets and cases. Key sets, a lot of them are sold through other websites. You'll see a bunch of different ones. Mainly they go through, sometimes you'll see them through Massdrop, Kono, the Key Company. There's a couple other different sites that use that sell just keycap group buys or like Originative, that they always have stuff in stock and always have a group buy going. It seems like they're
pretty
putting
much always
they're putting new GMK sets out like every couple months. But yeah, those are usually run through companies.
Yeah, and so it can be more reassuring. I've yet to see a keycap buy not go through a company, and if they have, I'd be interested to see how it went. But usually, you do have a little bit more, you can have a little more peace of mind knowing you're going to a company. So what happens is basically a designer will design a keycap set, and then they'll go, "Hey, I think this is awesome, and I've got my interest check done. A lot of people like it," and then they'll take it to vendors. And a lot of times they'll have, for different parts of the world, you'll actually have different vendors
Right.
For the same run. And so, they'll go to KVD fans or Z Frontier for that part of the world, and then you'll have like Novel Keys, and Kono does a lot of American group buys. So you can get a good. It's very rare that those companies will let you down. They won't. They're not gonna. If something goes wrong with the order, most of the time they're going to be refunding you. I've personally never seen that happen. But the other thing though is if the group buy does fail, which it can, because there are a lot of minimum order quantities, or MOQs for short, where you just they don't get enough people buying it, and then they'll just refund your money. That happened with a few different key sets that I have seen, where it just doesn't work out. But they'll give you your money back because that money just goes and sits in a pool waiting to be spent at GMK or Signature Plastics or Enjoy PBT, wherever those are going.
Yeah.
So
It just really depends on those not hitting. A lot of them now, especially right now we're in a time where there's like 12 different GMK sets and a couple other like
It's a
SA
buyer's
sets.
market.
Um, they're hitting, but the ones that do have issues sometimes are those like smaller um, compatibility sets. Sometimes
Mhm.
won't hit, but
Yeah, or ones with very polarizing colorways and
right,
stuff like that. So,
right, especially if they haven't seen as much of the spotlight as some of the other sets that are out at the
mhm.
time.
And one thing worth noting on key set group buys, and we talked about this with the GMK nines, is a lot of times when you get custom colors, um, they have to get samples from GMK, and then those
Mhm.
have to get approved. So timelines, they might say this timeline, but be patient because uh, most people, I think, would rather get exactly what at a later date than something that's off
Right.
and get it sooner. So understand that you are working with you are expecting from one company who's at the hands of another company trying to get a specific color, and then they have all that shipping time and all the approval time and all of that. So with custom colors, it can. I mean, I know GMK Olivia was one that took an extra few months, which I mean, it still came out and it came out fantastic. But if they had rushed that all that rose gold might not have been as good. So
Yeah, because it takes, you know, for something like nines that's using standard GMK colors, it takes about 16 weeks to get them all machined and everything, and everything's back from GMK, and then you have processing times and shipping and all the stuff after that. So if you add in those sample times, you're looking at 20 25 weeks. Sometimes it can be longer depending on how many rounds they have to go through. I know
mhm.
for a set that's like that just finished not too long ago, like GMK Bento, two of the three colors for it looked great, but I know that they're still working on trying to get a better white for the
Yeah,
samples.
yeah,
So
and I mean, is one a group buy that I'm waiting on shipping probably this week if it hasn't already shipped is Modern Dolch, and
mhm.
that went through a few color changes. And their expectation said January. It's going to come out in April. So just know a lot of these sets. Olivia was supposed to be August, September, and it came out in November. So take that month with whatever date they give. Try and take that with a grain of salt because it's going to be around that time, but it's very rare that they do hit exactly on time. But just be patient with them because they're trying to give you the best possible rendition of what the designer made, and they're trying to make 250 people happy, and you want to make sure that people got in on that picture, and you're just trying to match it. So I think it does stink that you spend money and then you have to wait for this much time, but it's a lot of this community is about patience. So
Yeah, and be if you're gonna put in the money for a group buy, don't be scared about the fact that it is gonna take a little while. Just know that that's gonna happen, and if you're looking at something on Mass Drop and it says it's not gonna be available till September, don't really expect it before then. Um,
mhm.
but as far as key sets go, that's kind of really it with getting into key set group buys in terms
Mhm.
of what the expectations are. It will take some time. They do want to make sure they get it perfect because these designers have a lot on the line with each one of these
Mhm.
buys. And then as far as for cases and actual boards, whether it comes with a PCB or not, if it's all inclusive, it comes with everything except for caps and switches. The case group buys can be a completely different beast.
It is
They can be
very different.
quite
It's
different.
very You have people who are running it out of their garage versus big companies versus everything in between. You've got there's so many different things you kind of have to look into before going in. And if you're wanting to spend your hard-earned money, you want to make sure it's going to go to someone that fulfills it. Um, so finding a reputable group buy runner, it can be difficult. My best advice there is if you see it, kind of do some research on Geek Hack, see if they've done any group buys in the past, see if this person has done a successful group buy, how people liked that, how people thought that board turned out. Um, I'm not a I have not bought a ton of boards, but I know people like TX keyboards, they do great. They have a great good turnaround time, and I've yet to be disappointed by them. Rama, I know, does great stuff, and those boards do come at a higher price. But if you're going to be spending the money, those are just a couple companies that I know they deliver. They make sure that the product is a high quality. I know Leaf does
Yep.
great.
The Fox Lab stuff
The Fox
is
Lab stuff is
fantastic.
awesome. And those are just some names, and those do pop up from time to time. But obviously, you run into there's a Triangle Labs did the TR60, which I got in on that group. I no longer have the board, but it was it took a little bit longer, and you do kind of get worried when you don't hear anything for a while. So
Yeah, I mean,
it
we're
can
not
be.
talking down to like first time group buy runners. That's not what we're trying to
Mm,
do. You know, it's one of those things with if you're new getting into group buys, go try to at least have your first couple group buys be with those more experienced, those bigger run group buys, because if you try to get on something that's a smaller buy where there's only maybe 25, 30 boards sold a total, and it's by someone who's doing it for the first time, you might have a little bit harder time getting through the process because you're not familiar with it. You know, once you kind of get more ingrained in the community, getting in something that may be a first time or a smaller run by that might have at the end of the day a couple more issues than something like a Rama or a Fox Lab, something that you know is going to hit the full MOQs and isn't going to be delayed unless something crazy happens at the factory. That might be a little bit better experience for someone who's new into group buys because they can be intimidating, especially, you know, we're we're both in the Lumina group buy currently,
yeah.
and I feel bad for Telestron every time he updates his page because it seems like he's just having a terrible time with the manufacturers, trying to figure out what's going on, and you know he's gotten some great updates the past couple weeks,
Mm.
and it seems like things are really going in the right direction, but that happens
Yeah.
sometimes. You don't know if you don't have a manufacturer you work with all the time, which some of these group buy runners don't, and it's not their fault. Things happen and it gets delayed. So
Yeah, and in a lot, the biggest thing that I do see is you do have people when you're spending money, there's a certain expectation from these group buys for them to make sure there's information and a clear line of communication of what is happening. And I see it a lot where people kind of just go dark for a while.
yeah,
And certain people just don't say anything, but you do have to remember there might just not be anything happening, and I've seen it where some people go, hey, just checking and letting you know I haven't heard anything. It's been 2 weeks and they said the last thing I heard was they're manufacturing, and today they told me they were still manufacturing. And whether or not they do that, that's completely up to them, but just know that most of the time those guys are really excited to share what they're showing and what's happening. And so when when things are not happening, they might just not show it just because they don't want to say, hey, there's nothing
nothing's going on.
happening, nothing's going on. Like, sorry to be a bummer, but I know that most times when anything happens, the first thing that they do is they start sharing it as much as they can, which is great. And so just try and be patient with them. A lot of times, especially with smaller group buys, it's literally one guy who this is not his full-time job trying to communicate. A lot of times overseas, you know, waiting to get manufacturing updates, and
Yeah,
so it's just it you don't want to get too upset or anything like that, and because they are just humans trying to make a product, and they want that product just as much as you.
yeah, because things happen, and you know even if they're not overseas, if they're here, you know, in the United States or in your home country, um, they're probably dealing with someone that's overseas, whether it's a manufacturer or someone that's involved in the process in those group buys. Now, as far as group buys, especially in a lot of the higher end stuff, there are different uh, types of the way the buys are run. Um, we're starting to see more and more of these smaller group buys with limited spots or raffles, um, as opposed to something being an open buy. Um, a lot of times you'll see things where it's like limited to 50 units or limited to 20 units, and you gotta, either be someone or know someone to try to get on to some of these, or you have to kind of put your name in the hat and hope you get raffled off and you get picked. Um, so if you want to talk a little bit about these, I know you kind of have a little bit
Yeah,
more experience with
I
the different raffles.
so with like the raffling, it's that's just luck of the draw. Just be ready. I think in reality, it is the most fair way to do a limited run. Um, so I think that you know just be ready and try and with Geek Hack, it's there. The information is typically there. So just try and if you want to get in on the raffle, just make sure you read through the Geek Hack, see how you can submit your name, and just hope for the best. And if not, it happens.
Yeah.
You had just as much of a chance of getting one as everybody else, and it happens. And then when you go to limited spots, obviously that's a timing thing. Um, there has been a lot of talk of whether or not limited is a good versus a bad thing, but just know that it might stink that you didn't get in on it. You might be upset, but there will be more limited group. There is
Yeah.
going to be more. I don't see this community slowing down at all. And you know, if you do get in a limited spot, that's great because you're probably going to be getting a really good product. And that's the best part about limited group buys is if they're going, hey, we're only making 20, if you get in on that, you're going to be getting uh a solid group buy. Like you're going to get the best of the best from them because what they're trying to do is just limit how many they have to quality
Produce.
control.
Yeah, they don't want to get into a situation where they've got 200 boards that one dude has to quality control after everything comes in, and then, ends up the quality of the board suffers due to the fact that they're not able to give each board the attention that they need.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, what happens too is some of these that end up being raffles or limited spots don't start off trying to be limited or raffle. They start off with the intention of being an open buy. I know one, for
Mm-hmm.
example, from this was a while ago, but the meme keyboard was the gasket mounted 65%, and this was like last year. Relbit did it, and he really wanted the board to be an open buy, and then it just kind of things didn't really line up for him, and he wasn't able to do it, so it kind of became a closed group buy where he just built the board for him and a couple friends, and there wasn't very many that ended up going out. And a lot of people were a little bit upset by that, but things happen. And that's kind of what you can expect in this hobby. Sometimes things happen on these smaller group buys. And sometimes they run unlimited spots because the designer only really wants to get 20, 30, 50 of these boards out there. They don't want there to be, 600 of the next TGR board or something. They want
Yeah.
it to be a limited run so they can preserve their name and preserve the hype around the boards that they create.
That and another thing that limited spots and limited runs do when you want to, if you only want to make 10. And I spoke with Jay about this a lot, Jay from Top Clack on our Discord. And it was just about how when you do a limited run, it can really push innovation. So when you see stuff like mounted boards, like the meme was kind of one of the first ones to do that.
Yeah.
And now we see now in 2019, there's multiple, the Volcano 660 or 666. I don't remember the exact name. The actual gasket board. There's just a lot of boards coming out now that are gasket mounted. And that's great because somebody decided to run a very small group buy to see if it would be successful. And it was. And so, my thought is they're great and there's always going to be other boards. There's
Yeah.
always going to be more things. So
Yeah, and I think it's definitely it's definitely something there can probably be a longer discussion about just the differences and what our opinions are on the different types of
mhm,
buys. And we'll probably end up doing a whole episode just on what we think about private, limited spot, and
yeah,
raffles versus open. Um, so we'll save some of that for another day.
yeah.
As far as when you are in these group buys, don't overdo it. Don't put yourself in a position where you don't have where you
I've done
spend too
this.
much money, or you, because the thing is you will you will be able to get either everything you want or most of what you want if you're patient. If you just limit yourself to saying, hey, I'm going to buy this board and then I'm going to buy sets after this, and you just buy
Mhm.
a board 1 month and then the next couple months you're buying key sets. If you do want to purchase something every month, limit yourself to what you can afford. Don't go crazy with it and get yourself in a hole and then not
Mhm.
have anything to show for it for 6 months, because sometimes things don't come um, when you expect. Like we were talking about the Lumina, I think that was September, and we're
And
sitting here.
either end or beginning of September, but yeah, we're sitting in April, and the stuff's coming.
It's coming. It's
It's
still
on its
happening.
way.
It's not like
It's still
it's
happening, and we're getting updates. But I mean, I've been on the M0110 group buy since July 22nd, and we still have not seen a whole lot from that group buy, and that's a whole nother topic. And I don't want to. I'm still very excited for the M0110. I think it's going to be a cool board, but that entire group buy has been not as expected. And I'll leave it at that. But yeah, just there is instant gratification is a thing that a lot of people struggle with. When you
right,
buy something you want, and I remember when I bought the M0110, I was like, this is great, but I spent all this money and now I have nothing to show for it, and I
right.
really want something. And so you know that's why we suggest, if you're starting in the community, get something that you can build. Get something, get grab a tofu, grab a something from KVD fans that you like, and just have that. And then the other thing is, you don't want to buy 4 boards and none of them show up for 8 months, and then you realize that, oh, I spent all this money on boards and now I only have one key set. And if you're down for switching your keycaps all the time, or switching the switches all the time, or whatever, that's totally fine. That's you. That's your thing. But just know that, to have a completed board, you need switches, you need keycaps, you need a board, you need a PCB, it needs to be built, all that stuff. And
Don't
it
forget
can be,
stabilizers.
yeah, don't forget stabilizers, novel keys. We're not sponsored by anybody, but novel keys has, if you're in America, novel keys, great spot for stabilizers. But just be patient, because when you get it, it can be it's such a great feeling getting a board in the mail and having that experience.
Yeah.
And if you wind up buying all these things, or if you go the way of, oh, I bought this awesome keyboard on a group buy, and then I went and bought one off of Mech Market, and it's almost like you're taken away from the original group buy experience. And so what we just suggest, before you you know spend money on 3 different boards, just make sure, we're not saying obviously don't buy stuff, because
Yeah, if you have the ability to buy it, if
spend your money how
it's
you
your
want. I
money,
don't
yeah,
care, but
spend it how you want it. But it's more of the fact of don't ruin the buys and don't ruin the experience that you get out of building and enjoying each board by over purchasing or putting yourself in a financial situation where you're no longer comfortable. Um, especially because there is the terrible case of FOMO, missing out on,
yeah,
the fear of missing out on
gotta
stuff. Because who
gotta give the
knows?
shout out real quick, because where I forgot who said it. I'm looking it up right now, but they we were talking QX on this. He was just the fear of missing out. We just want to give you a quick shout out, because QX was talking about this with me, and it's definitely a great topic. The fear of missing out can really hinder everyone's ability uh, to get something that they want. So, or overspend.
Yeah, because, and it is one thing because, say say you missed out on a keycap set that was on mass drop, for instance. Who knows, in 2 or 3 months after the key set has run, they might do one of their keycap recaps where they have 100 sets of that key set available, and you can buy it maybe at retail or just a little bit above retail. Or it comes out and a couple people who got it were like, I don't really like it. They put it on Mech Market, and you might end
Mhm.
up spending just a little bit more, but maybe you're in a better position now than you were, when the buy was running in order to purchase that key set.
Yeah,
So
especially with key sets, it is pretty easy. I would say if you are active on Mech Market, it's pretty easy to get a key set that just came out. There are a lot of
right.
people that buy key sets just to flip them. You will be spending more money than the original group, but you also instant gratification. It's
Yeah,
there.
it's there.
It's very. I have yet to see a keycap set run without having an actual shot at getting one. So, but that's there's so much more we could talk about on group buys. I think just the I guess slight recap. Just you are spending your money, so just do your research. Don't be afraid to ask if you're wanting to get in on a group buy and you want one of us to look it over, or you want us to you know don't don't be afraid to shoot us a question on the Discord, and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. There are a lot of people and a lot of reputable buyers and a lot of reputable sellers, and just don't be afraid to contact someone. Post on Reddit, post on our Discord, you can message us, whatever. I mean, we'll be happy to talk to you about this. And then also just let us know what group buys you're getting in. I love hearing what people are getting into, and I love what they want to buy and what they're interested in. So, just let
Yeah.
us know, and your group buy experiences as well, because, for a first time group buy, if you have one that's like awesome and amazing, we want to know. We want to know who sold it and all that. And if you have one that was a little bit disappointing, let us know. And, you know, we just we love talking about the boards. We love talking about uh, all this stuff, and so group buys can you know be a it can be a very rewarding experience, and you can get really really awesome stuff. So
Yeah, you can definitely just stay patient on your purchase. Just make sure that you are aware, hey, it's going to take 3 to 6 to 9 months sometimes to get this board or this key set. But know that it's all about getting it correct and making sure that everything is together, um, and is perfect for you, because they
mhm.
want to provide the best product possible, and they want to make sure that everything is as it should be.
Yep. So we are pretty over time on what we usually do. So next week we'll do Keep of the Week. Be sure to submit on our Discord. We'll put a link down below. But be sure to submit on our Discord pictures you think of either your boards or someone you saw on Reddit, for Keep of the Week. If you want your board on our channel, take a pic. If it's try and make it a bigger sized picture, and we'll throw it up on the back of our episode. And you know, make sure to subscribe to for more content for coming up, and make sure to join our Discord. We'd love to sit and talk to you about anything and all keyboards and anything else really. And we'd love to hear more from y'all.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming, and y'all have a good time.